Most people assumed this vehicle was built to take on fighter jets screaming over the Rhine at Mach 1. It was not. The Gepard was designed to kill helicopters, big armored helicopters that would come in low and hit NATO tank columns before anyone could react. Here is what makes it worth talking about. The Gepard weighs 47 tons, heavier than an F-15. It carries two guns that spit out 1,100 rounds per minute, combined. It was built in the 1970s. Germany retired it in 2010. Nobody wanted it. Then Ukraine showed the world what it could do, and suddenly every defense planner on the planet took a second look. How did a Cold War gun that nobody needed become one of the most important weapons on a modern battlefield? By the mid-1960s, the Soviet Union had a strategy that kept NATO war planners up at night. If a war broke out in Europe, they would not open with a wave of high-altitude bombers. They would come in low, attack helicopters skimming treetops, ground attack aircraft flying under radar. The whole point was to get inside the reaction time of Western air defenses before those defenses could respond. The helicopter threat was the sharpest edge of this. The Mi-24 Hind, which entered service in the early 1970s, was something NATO had never seen before. It could carry 8 troops and fight as a gunship at the same time. Soviet pilots called it the flying tank. It was armored against small arms and carried anti-tank missiles with a range of several kilometers. If these machines hit a NATO armored column in force, the column was in serious trouble. West Germany looked at what it had. The M42 Duster, an American SPAAG from the early 1950s, armed with twin 40mm Bofors guns, no onboard radar, a combined rate of fire of 240 rounds per minute. The Duster could not reliably track fast targets. It could not operate at night without external support, and it was already obsolete before the decade started. Germany had 496 of them. None were the answer. Two companies put forward competing designs in the late 1960s. Rheinmetall built something called the Matador. Oerlikon and a consortium built the 5PFC-A. Both sat on the Leopard 1 tank chassis. The Leopard was already in mass production, the drivetrain was proven, and it could keep pace with the armored units the Gepard was meant to protect. The Germans could not decide on the gun caliber, 30mm or 35mm. They built prototypes of both and ran them against each other. The 35mm won. The round carried more explosive weight, it had longer reach, and the Oerlikon KDA cannon that fired it was already mature. The 5PFZ-A became the basis for the Gepard, and in September 1973, Krauss-Maffei signed the production contract, 420 vehicles. Total program cost 1.2 billion Deutsche Marks. Each Gepard cost roughly 3 times the price of the Leopard 1 it was built on. That price tag is one reason it never sold well abroad. The first Gepards rolled off the line in late 1976. Belgium ordered 55. The Netherlands ordered 95 with their own Philips radar suite. In total, 570 vehicles were produced. The Gepard never fired a shot in anger until 2022. If you want to understand how the weapons that shaped the Cold War actually got built, that is the kind of story we cover here. So stick around. Two things define how this gun fights: the radars and the cannons. The search radar sits on a swing arm at the rear of the turret. It scans out to 15 kilometers. When it picks up something, the tracking radar at the front, mounted between the two gun barrels, takes over. It locks on and feeds continuous data into the fire control computer. The computer calculates lead angle, range, and the number of rounds needed. The crew confirms the target and authorizes fire. The system handles the rest. The guns are Oerlikon KDA 35mm autocannons, each barrel 3.15 meters long, roughly the height of a single-story building laid on its side. each fires 550 rounds per minute. The standard round is high explosive incendiary. The vehicle also carries 20 armor-piercing rounds per gun for ground targets. Total onboard ammunition is 680 rounds. At full continuous fire, both guns run dry in 35 seconds. In a typical engagement against a drone or low-flying missile, the crew fires short bursts of 20 to 40 rounds. The FAPDS rounds travel at 1,440 meters per second, against a Shahed 136 flying at 185 kilometers per hour. That is not a close contest. The Gepard rides on the Leopard 1's 830 horsepower 10-cylinder diesel, tops out at 65 kilometers per hour on road, and can move cross-country. It does not need to be stationary to engage. That mobility is not a bonus. It is the reason it survives. The Gepard is a three-man machine: commander, gunner, driver. That is it. When Germany sent decommissioned Gepards to Ukraine in 2022, crews had to be trained from scratch. One Ukrainian crew commander, going by the call sign Buba, told reporters it took his team just over a month to get up to speed. He said that was 10 times faster than the standard German training timeline. The crews describe operating it as something between a video game and a weight. Ukrainian gunner Oleksiy put it this way: "You use a joystick to find the target, drop a ring onto it, hold for 2 seconds, and the turret rotates and locks. Then the computer decides. Then you wait for the order to fire. And then it happens fast." Soldiers said the first time a real target appeared on screen, after weeks of nothing, it knocked the breath out of them. You can't make a mistake, and if it is missiles, then you just must make the decision in a few seconds and shoot them down. The vehicles are positioned near power substations, logistics hubs, and cities like Kyiv and Odessa. They sit on hills, in tree lines, anywhere a radar can get a clean look at the sky. The crews rotate positions frequently to avoid being tracked down. One crew near Kyiv had only 12 days of leave in nearly a year. The driver, a 29-year-old named Alexander, said the days blur together. One minute we're waking up, the next it's nearly evening, and we have to try and sleep again. One crew nicknamed their Gepard the Dragon. Commander Roman, 27, walked journalists through the vehicle and pointed to the kill markings stenciled on the hull: 4 Shaheds, 2 cruise missiles. For us, each airborne enemy air target we shoot down is a small victory that gets us nearer the big one, he said. There is also a detail that almost nobody talks about. The Gepard fires Swiss-made ammunition. The Oerlikon 35 by 228mm round was developed in Switzerland. Switzerland has a strict neutrality policy. For months, no country could legally re-export Swiss 35mm rounds to Ukraine without Bern's approval. Switzerland vetoed the transfers. Germany eventually worked around it by tasking Rheinmetall with producing its own 35mm ammunition domestically. The first shipment arrived in late 2023. The Swiss ammunition block is one of the strangest logistics stories to come out of this war. If you have thoughts on how neutrality policies should work when lives are on the line, let me know in the comments. The Gepard's combat record in Ukraine is real, but it is not comprehensive. Exact kill tallies are not published in a way that can be independently verified across the board. What is documented is specific and concrete. In September 2023, a Gepard crew near Odessa shot down 10 Iranian-made Shahed drones in a single session. The footage went viral. It was the first time anyone had seen a Gepard engage a target from the crew's own perspective. Ukraine's Southern Air Command posted the video with a caption that translated roughly to, "The German Gepard hunted down the enemy Shaheds." Gepards have also destroyed at least one Kh-101 cruise missile that was heading for a power plant near Kyiv. Ukrainian Air Force spokesman Yuri Ihnat stated plainly that the Gepard is, in cost terms, the best system available for shooting down drones. Today, Gepard is the best in this regard, in terms of cost effectiveness, he said. We need more of them, both Gepard systems and their analogs. The numbers support that claim. A single Gepard engagement against a Shahed costs a fraction of what a missile intercept costs. A Patriot interceptor runs into 6 figures. The Gepard burns through cheap rounds of 35mm ammunition. Russia is manufacturing Shaheds at an estimated $50,000 to $70,000 per unit. Ukraine is shooting them down with a machine that costs less per kill than the drone itself costs to build. The Gepard did not change the shape of the war by itself. It is one layer in a layered air defense system. But it filled a gap that nothing else could fill cheaply, reliably, or at volume. It forced Russia to think about how it sends drones toward Ukrainian cities, because those drones now have a very real chance of getting torn apart before they get there. The Gepard was built to protect NATO tank columns from Soviet helicopters on the plains of Central Europe. That war never happened. The machine sat in depots for over a decade, written off as obsolete. Then a war arrived that nobody predicted, and it turned out the thing nobody wanted was exactly the thing somebody needed. It did not do what it was designed to do. It did something arguably more important. It proved that in a war defined by cheap, disposable drones, you do not always need the most expensive answer. Sometimes you need something old, something reliable, and something that keeps firing. The crews who man these machines know that better than anyone. They sit on hills in the dark, watching radar screens, waiting. And when the target appears, they have seconds to act. A machine built 50 years ago. A crew with 12 days of leave in a year. And a small victory, one drone at a time, that is adding up to something larger. That is what the Gepard actually became. Not what anyone planned, just what was needed. Hit subscribe if this was worth your time.